And the other point that I thought was really intriguing, and actually Joe and I have been texting back and forth about it when you mentioned it, is this golden ticket idea, where there's 14 Breeders' Cup races every year, and either at the draw or the day of racing, they go in a lottery style and they pull out a golden ticket of which of the Breeders' Cup races are going to be enhanced by $1 million. So in other words, if it's Future Stars Friday and the breeders the juvenile turf sprint is the ticket that gets pulled, that purse automatically goes from $1 million to $2 million. It would encourage drama, because we would mic people up either at the draw or in the paddock, like you mentioned, and all of a sudden that purse would increase by $1 million. The following year, that race would be ineligible for the $1 million bonus. So people wouldn't know when they're entering their horses if that race was going to be enhanced by $1 million. But I mean, shit, that would be phenomenal and great for ratings to be able to explain to the public and people why these people are getting excited, why these 12 parties in the paddock are so excited, because all of a sudden their purse money doubled or at least went up by another $1 million. That's a really fascinating idea.
Yeah, I think it'd be really exciting, and don't know if it would have any effect, but it might make for fuller fields too. You might attract a horse or two, and just you have to be careful when you talk about the industry. We all survive, but those days, Derby, right, Breeders' Cup, at the risk of sort of not trying to dampen our business, but the guys who lose the most money, the guys that take the biggest risk, are those game enough to buy a horse, name a horse, go to the races, and then hear 1,000,001 reasons why their horse got beat or didn't run. 1,000,000 that have been repeated, and one that's never happened before, right, and your trainer tells you.
It's just unique, just to you, yes,
right? The humidity today was terrible. You hated the humidity. So
right,
they, again, the sort of an analogy of a charity. You want to take as much of the money as you can and reward those owners, because without them, we don't have a business. And I sell horses. So the more purse opportunities, the more enhanced value opportunities, the more global opportunities there are for a horse, the more valuable my horses are, and all of us are competitive. I like to think that, we have some of the greatest stallions, broodmares, and therefore yearlings on offer in the world. And, the more they're worth, the better it is for me. And the more I can reward a customer, that is the yearling owner that's going to the races, the better it is for our game. So I think it would make the draw. You couldn't get a seat versus, sort of mundane stale sandwich. Breeders, we have a draw. That's not to get the Breeders' Cup, but however you do it, $1 million on offer gets everybody there or on the telephone. Do we win the golden ticket? I think, again, I'm not trying to take credit like it's a deep thought. It just, I think it's something that, again, what the opposition would be, what if you were, sort of, there's always a point counterpoint. If you're counterpoint and you're on the Breeders' Cup board, John and I had this idea. Why would you say, I don't like that?
Right. There's no reason, and you could probably even expand it to being able to tell the bettors who and Joe, you can jump in on this one because I know you're a handicapper. Where they sometimes get the short end of the stick. If it's going to be $1 million bonus for the golden ticket for the owners and the breeders in that race, you make it a guaranteed pool in that race also. And that way the bettors know that there's going to be a guaranteed payout of X amount of dollars as well. Because I think
not a guaranteed pool, because guaranteed pools are bullshit, because usually that pool is going to reach that amount anyway. So it's really there's so few instances where there's actually money contributed to the pool. A seeded pool, like this weekend, this Saturday, they're seeding the Coast to Coast Pick 5 with $100,000. Take $1 million, seed the pool for that race or that pick 4 or pick 5 or whatever, because on the other end, the bettors are what fuel the sport too. So I think that's I think that would be equitable for sure. I want to go back to the breeding side for a second, because I think in addition to the gene pool potentially shrinking, I think one of the issues that people have with the way horses are bred is that they're whisked off to the breeding shed way too quickly, and that we're breeding horses who don't display enough soundness and enough hardiness. And then as a result, we're seeing fewer and fewer races out of these horses over time. Curlin's a great example, I think, of a horse that raced over seasons, from 3 to 4 to 5, raced, a good 8-10 times a year, even tried turf. Like, shout out to Jess Jackson, the late Jess Jackson, for being so sporting with him. And I think that has shown up in his foals. Curlin's foals typically get better with age and are around for several seasons. Jon is someone who is involved with marketing and acquiring stallions. Like, how much do you take into account, not just the brilliance of a horse, but how long they were able to stay on the racetrack?
Yeah. So I think it's a complex question, because a lot of horses with brief careers retire, and their retirement has nothing to do with exhibiting unsoundness. It's an economic decision. And that's a very complicated equation, because let's say you have a lot of these syndicates who people invest in the syndicates, and they take SF, for example, and their goal is to return to their investors as much money as they can. So they're going to sell those horses as 3-year-olds on top of their value, and they're going to get as much as they can. And someone like myself, let's just, for example, if I bought a $10 million horse, I paid for the horse in spring of his 3-year-old year. They want the money. I paid the money. Now, if I don't get a return at the end of the year, breeding in 2024, he then races in 2025. I have foals in 2026. I have an accrual of $10 million plus my insurance, plus the infertility, all my costs for 24 months with 7% interest, churning. The seller got his money, and that makes it a tougher deal. It's probably 15-20% of extra expense. So $10 million horses, $2 million in addition to purchase price in fees, interest, etc., before you get a return on investment. So I think it's sporting. I think it's great for the game that horses would run at 4 and 5, but I think it depends upon the owner. I remember when Harry Allio had Lost in the Fog a horse that I loved. That horse, he wanted to watch the horse run. Jess Jackson wanted to watch the horse run, but there aren't that many people that own these horses that are really willing to train at 4 and 5 when they can sell that horse and monetize him and use those funds to go to the yearling sale. But I would say one of the trends that I think is tilting and shifting this, this normalcy, is the purse opportunities in Dubai, Saudi. If we can have more worldwide opportunities of huge purses, it gives a much better chance of these dynamic 3-year-olds running as 4 and 5-year-olds. The Pegasus, Breeders' Cup, there's a lot more opportunity than there was. And if 1 or 2 more venues could be added, again, this is a bit off topic. I have these ideas that sometimes possess me for moments. And I thought, if we talk about Japanese racing, and again, this is not a critique. I just point out a few points that are valid facts. As Americans, you can't sell in Japan. It's virtually impossible to get a racing license to race in Japan. Their industry, for the most part, was built on the American dirt horse. They come to Fasig-Tipton, they buy they buy most of grade 1 winning mares, free trade, no problem. And so they trade here with impunity. We can't really trade there. What if diplomatically, nicely, somebody went to the JRA and said, we think with the facts as demonstrated, we're not elevating this to a point of conflict. But this is what we think would be fair and equitable. For you to put on a Breeders' Cup Day
Mhm.
to invite horses from all over the world in all categories, just like the Breeders' Cup, 2, 3, 3 up, dirt, turf. Make sure that we have to have at least, let's say, 5 North American spots, 5 European spots, 5 Japanese spots. Let's put on a 25, 30, $40 million day, invite the whole world. It's a way for you to show pride in what you are doing, what you have built. Japanese horses used to need some protection. I understand that as they were growing their brand. Now they're world class. They're as good as or better than any horse in the world. They don't need that. It's a way to share ideas, a way to be proud of your country, purse opportunities for older horses, younger horses. It creates a synergy amongst countries. It creates this international commerce to where, you're more comfortable maybe buying a Japanese horse. They're more comfortable buying an American horse because we've come together. We've run. You've seen the quality of our horses. We've seen the quality of yours. So it really would, I think, drive international commerce both ways, as opposed to just groups coming over and buying 15 Grade 1 winning mares and going home, and we'll see you next year.